boleh langsung tunjuk tangan aja.
Iya, kalau berani dan bisa jawab bisa maju ke depan.
Iya.
Terus kita ada gifts for you juga.
Yes, jadi yang berani menjawab akan dapat gifts dari kita. So we need 2 volunteers. Kita butuh 2 orang, mungkin 1 laki, 1 perempuan ya Kak ya, untuk maju ke depan and explain to us what At America is. Ada yang mau teman-teman?
Ayo dong.
Atau enggak Bapak Ibu gurunya boleh? Mabel. Oke, and you?
My name is Hilmi.
Hilmi. Oke, mungkin kita ke kamu dulu ya. Can you explain to us what is At America? Boleh pakai bahasa Indonesia, boleh bahasa Inggris juga.
I honestly don't know what At America is, but all I know is that it's an English like community stuff where like we learn English and we study how like we talk to like native speakers, and that's all I know about At America.
Cuma English aja?
Yeah.
Oke.
Kalau kamu apa? At America itu apa menurut kamu?
I have no clue.
Setahunya aja.
Iya.
Boleh maju ke depan?
Apa aja Kak?
Melalui event-event kita, program-program kita, dan juga fasilitas kita. Jadi intinya kalau teman-teman pengen belajar nih tentang Amerika Serikat, di sini tempatnya. Nah, kita punya video ya Kak, untuk kalian biar tahu. Education USA ya teman-teman, ini adalah salah satu layanan yang kita sediakan di At America kalau teman-teman mau lanjut sekolah ke Amerika Serikat. Langsung aja bikin appointment sama kita. Okay, our presentation. What do we have next, Kasir?
Hari ini spesial sebenarnya Kak Ara.
You guys are very lucky today because hari ini kita kedatangan a special guest from the US Embassy Jakarta that will be giving presentation to you guys. So please welcome
Bu Jordan.
Selamat siang semua. Alright, so my name is Jordan, and as our, especially high school students, because I think it's a very International Women's Day. Also, should I pause for translation at what point? I don't know who I should be looking at. Population participate in the workforce, but I also chose this subject because it is universal. Raise your hand if you are either to have a wife one day. All right, that's almost everybody in the room. All right, so short outline. We'll talk about why I think this issue is important and why I wanted to share it with you today. I try to show kind of both sides of that and what some of the impacts are either way. A study recently where they surveyed the participation rates by gender in the United States.
Or stealing all their resources and using the labor to focusing on industrializing their industries and countries more. Thank you.
So, the Industrial Revolution, factories are starting to be built, right? And especially the textile industries, clothing, that's women and men who are working together on farms. And women at that point are considered very equal partners. They're raising the animals, they're growing crops, and the men are in the way that we think of it today, and the roles are very equal. Work being paid differently. So in the factories, you have women who perhaps are the ones who are sewing and using. Actually grows into a push for the 19th Amendment, which is the right for women to vote in the United States. It's kind of actually grows into a push for the 19th Amendment, which is the right for women to vote in the United States. It's kind of, and the 1940s, the United States is sending tens of thousands of men to go fight. A war to maintain, right? We need to create machinery for war. We have to have enough food to feed the soldiers overseas. And after World War II, there's diminishing stigma. Do you guys know the word like stigma? That might be a cognate. Now that women have been in the workforce, it is more accepted for them to be present. And there are a couple of reasons for that, and that's partly because when women still are more likely, of course, to leave the labor force for a while after they have kids. And then when they have less work experience, then the employers are able to say, okay, you have less work experience, so your work is valued less. That's part of it. It's also partly due to the way that men and women still gravitate towards certain sectors, and women are more likely than men to have jobs. A lot of this is applicable to what things look like worldwide. So during the pandemic, as everybody is very much aware, education, healthcare, and retail, those were the sectors that were hit hardest, where most people ended up losing their employment, or they were furloughed, means you lose your job temporarily. And 6 in 10 women in the United States, 60%, worked in one of these 3 sectors. And women were leaving the workforce 4 times as fast as men, partly because of the sectors that women are more likely to work in, but also because overall childcare is highest paying in the United States, continue to be dominated by men, and that's slowly shifting. But as you can see here, for chief executives, we only have about 1 in 3 who are women in the United States. A little bit better for judges and other judicial workers. Do you guys know what a pharmacist is? Yeah, okay. I thought that was fascinating to me. I don't know very many pharmacists, but apparently there's very good gender balance when it comes to being a pharmacist in the United States. And I won't read all of these, you guys can look at it. But interestingly enough, less than 10% of pilots in the US are women. And I was a little bit disappointed to see this one about computer hardware engineers and electronic engineers. Those fields continue to be very, very heavily male-dominated. Employees who are women in that field, or who were in the year 2000. And the dark green dot, it shows the percentage of women in that field in 2019. And so you can see that with veterinarians, oddly enough, there's a huge jump in women who are becoming veterinarians, whereas counter and rental clerks, it's a pretty low-paying fields where there are scientific advancements or computer science. It's all under STEM. A lot of parents want their kids to be very good at STEM. So these are some of the examples of careers. And with the exception of computer workers, you can see that more and more women are entering the STEM fields. Social scientists, that would include things like being a historian or an anthropologist or an archaeologist, so that you actually have a greater percentage of women in those fields than men. A select group of other countries, and we know too now that the United States has about 89% of men participating in the workforce, so about the same as Indonesia. And then in Indonesia, it's just a little bit under 60% of women who are participating in the workforce. And I was a little bit surprised to see India, Turkey, Mexico be relatively low in that area. I also wanted to share this graph, which I found to be fascinating. So these are some other pretty advanced economies where the labor force participation rate is just going up and up and up. And you see for the United States, it's going the other direction after the year 2000. It starts actually going down. And there are a couple of reasons for that. Obstacle, there we go. So a country that is famous for having pretty poor policies when it comes to childcare and to have paid parental leave. We are the only OECD country that doesn't actually require paid parental leave when a baby is born. And so this is one reason social scientists say that. Thank you.
We give a big round of applause for Bu Jordan. Thank you so much, Bu. That was a very interesting presentation. Tadi aku yang bertanya.
And so you're used to hearing lots of different accents. You're used to hearing a lot of different, they're technically mistakes, but you just hear people use English in a different way, and you're very used to it. I'll understand you even if.
Question. I wonder about Indonesian women have a bigger chance than U.S. women in to get job. What do you think about that? Because a lot Indonesian women just become a housewife, and their family told her to stay at home and serve her husband and family. Thank you.
So to make sure I understand your question, do I think that there are like more obstacles for Indonesian women? As an American who's only been here for a couple months, I couldn't say exactly. I think that there are certainly obstacles that I see speaking with my colleagues and with my friends. I don't know if you would describe them as more challenging or less challenging, but different types of obstacles, right? Because I think in both countries, there's still this social, I don't know if you would agree, let me know if you don't agree with this, but I think in both countries, most places around the world, you are often brought up to think that like, okay, my husband will kind of be like running the house and I'll follow his lead, and my role will be, I could work maybe if it works, but my role will be with my kids. And for me, I think a big obstacle is if you don't want it to be that way, it's an obstacle to try to shift how your community or how the people around you are thinking about that. Like I mentioned, even with my husband, who I think he would describe himself as a feminist. Like he wants women to have the exact same opportunities as men. He wants me to work, but it's really hard when it shifted and he was the one staying at home. So I think the answer to your question is a lot of it comes down to what people see growing up, like what is normal. Are there women that you see, not necessarily like your mother?
Think about child free. Child free. Maybe it's
Not having kids?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh, okay, so just growing up and not having kids.
Yeah.
Oh, that doesn't offend me, don't worry. Nothing really offends me, you guys can ask anything. I respect I respect all choices about how people want to live their lives and how they want their families to be. Having kids is a huge commitment. And if you don't want to have kids, you should not have kids. Like my sister, for example, she's a couple years younger than me, and she announced when she was like 20 years old to my mother, she's like, I never want to have kids.
Take your time, no problem. Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Verda, and I would like to ask a couple of questions. As you mentioned before, we women have a lot of obstacles to have the career that we want. And how do you face the struggles that you have? And do you have any tips for us women who want to work in the same career line as you? Thank you.
Thank you. The obstacles that I faced. Let's see. So when my oldest child was born, he's 5 years old. At that point, as somebody who worked for the government, I had no paid time off to stay and take care of him.
Do you know what the reason back in old days, or maybe until now, women get paid less than men just because by its gender? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, there are a couple reasons for that, right? When we look at those graphs of just the average wages, a lot of that is because women are moving into jobs that get paid less. Like if you have more women who are selling clothes or who are being waitresses, and you have more men who are pilots or computer scientists, then you're gonna get a big average difference.
Why do you think so many young children want to work during this time period? Because like a lot of young children choose to work either for going to school. What is your opinion about it?
Children choosing to go to work?
Yeah, young children, they were preferred to going to work either for going to school because like maybe their economies, but what do you think about that thing's opinion, your opinion about it?
Overall, I think that there should be a minimum age. I think if your child, especially if you're under 16, my view is that you should definitely be in school, and working should not even be an option, because I think if you start to work as a child, you really hurt your chances of having a good future. I think even 16, 17, unless you are also going to school at the same time, is very, very young, because education is so.
I want to ask a question. How will you spread awareness on gender equality as an individual? That's the question.
Thank you. Scratch the surface, so they speak here with you guys, but about me and my husband, and how we have tried to build our household as equal partners, even over time it hasn't looked very traditional. I think it's really important for people to be aware of non-traditional forms of running your household and of having your life, because that it's easy to focus on what you see as the norm and then feel very uncomfortable when you might not want to follow the norm, or your family, and to have had happy, comfortable, successful lives. I think it helps change mindsets about ways that families can be.
A little bit of a closing statement before we end.
Sure. I really appreciate you guys coming here today, and I'm very grateful to At America for the opportunity to talk. I hope this was interesting. I was trying to think of something that was an engaging topic that would really lead to an interesting discussion. So I really appreciate the questions. I'll hang out for a little while afterwards if anybody'd like to talk more. But thank you very much for your attention today.
Thank you,
Juga presentasi. Kita mau kalian sekarang untuk maju ke depan.
Jadi we're gonna give the stage to you guys. So if any of you wants to perform anything, singing, dancing maybe, or giving speeches, ada yang mau? Ayo. Or maybe cuma sekedar chit-chat aja juga nggak apa-apa.
Iya, boleh.
Ada yang happy? Fun? Oke, seru banget ya. But sadly we have to end our school visit. Nggak end juga sih, nanti kalian bisa explore
Di luar.
So again, my name is Ara.
And I'm Sam.
And see you soon at the next At America event.
Bye bye guys, thank you so much for coming.